How's it going, guys? John the Basic Expert here. I love old school games, and since I've started to playtest Makuhito over the summer, my white box clone that is taking place in an Aztec setting, I've come to really love the very first iteration of the game. Now, if you are like me, you often find yourself discussing games in person or online, and run into a particular kind of person. These suck. You're not even like heroic. You have like one hit die. It's just dumb mudcore. Those stupid old school gamers and their dumb mudcore of like level 1 to 3, where they just are like crawling through the mud and then they die. Terrible, terrible games. I hate this. This is great gaming. This is super heroic high fantasy gaming. It's way closer than the sword and sorcery of Robert E. Howard that Gygax intended than anything that is. Ugh, this is much better. I think this person is objectively wrong. I think, and maybe this is controversial, that Zero E is one of the most heroic versions of D&D ever created. Let me explain how. In the foreword to Dungeons & Dragons, Gary says the following: "These rules are strictly fantasy. Those wargamers who lack imagination, those who don't care for burrows, Martian adventures where John Carter is groping through black pits, who feel no thrill upon reading Howard's Conan saga, who do not enjoy the DeCamp and Pratt fantasies, or Fritz Leiber's Fafhrd and the Grey Mouse are pitting their swords against evil sorceries, will not be likely to find Dungeons & Dragons to their taste." I find it hard to believe that Gary would reference John Carter, Conan, and Fafhrd and the Grey Mouse while simultaneously making a game where you are some pathetic pig farmer who might survive to higher levels. Maybe a majority of people just misunderstood the rules. The key to understanding all of this is Chainmail. Volume 1 of the 3 LBBs references Chainmail as a suggested resource. Of course, you can play a version of the game with just the 3 LBBs, but Chainmail really adds something to the game. Mixing Chainmail with the alternative combat system, which would go on to be the D20 system we are all familiar with, is key to making this heroic game that I am talking about. And the key is fighting capability. Looking at the fighting capability on page 17 of volume 1, you see things like man +1, 2 men +1, and other such things listed for the fighting man class. The rules on the next page for this is for referencing chainmail abilities, where, for instance, a level 3 fighting man has a fighting capability of 3 man or hero -1. But I think these stats need to be used even when the alternative combat system is being used and you're not exclusively using Chainmail. But let's look at what Chainmail says about heroes, a title all classes in Zero E can obtain. Included in this class are certain well-known knights, leaders of army contingents, and similar men. They have the fighting ability of 4 figures, the class being dependent on the arms and equipment of the hero types themselves, who can range from light foot to heavy horse. Heroes and anti-heroes need never check morale and add 1 to the die or dice of their unit, or whatever unit they are in. This implies that a hero character attacks as 4 men against regular units. This is where many games like White Box, FMAG, and Delving Deeper get this concept of multiple attacks against low hit die foes. This is further elaborated on in the monster section, where similar mechanics are expressed. Page 5 of volume 2 says the following: "Attack or defense capabilities versus normal men are simply a matter of allowing 1 roll as a man type for every hit die, with any bonuses being given to only 1 of the attacks, i.e. a troll would attack 6 times, once with a +3 added to the die roll. A troll's hit die code is 6 + 3, meaning 6 hit die are rolled, 66s, and 3 is added to the total. But it's clear that such a creature also gets 6 attacks as a normal man, with 1 attack gaining a +3 to hit. This is terrifying. However, this would only work against normal men, which of course means lower level player characters should rightfully be terrified of trolls. However, what constitutes a normal man? In Strategic Review Volume 1, Number 2 from summer of 1975, it says the following: "When fantastic combat is taking place, there is normally only 1 exchange of attacks per round, and unless the rules state otherwise, a 6-sided die is used to determine how many hit points of damage is sustained when an attack succeeds. Weapon type is not considered, save where magical weapons are concerned. A superhero, for example, would attack 8 times only if he were fighting normal men, or creatures basically that strength, i.e. kobolds, goblins, gnomes, dwarves, and so on. It later says in a combat example, assume the following dice score by the hero. Note that he is allowed 1 attack for each of his combat levels, as the ratio of 1 orc versus the hero is 1:4. So this is treated as normal, non-fantastic melee, as is any combat where the score of one side is a base of 1 hit die or less. Pretty clear, pretty dry, but this is much later, and Greyhawk has already been released and fundamentally changed the game to a large degree. This is where many clones get the rule that fighters attack multiple times against 1 hit die foes, and this is one interpretation. But this is after Greyhawk fundamentally changed the game and made it closer to what we understand today. But let's pretend it's 1974, Greyhawk and Strategic Review Volume 1 Issue 2 has not been released yet. This is the era of gaming I am most interested in, the era of rules prior to any Greyhawkisms. What constitute a quote normal man? Since hero is the lowest level presented in the fantasy supplement in Chainmail, I would argue anything below that is quote normal. For a fighting man, this is 4 hit die and level 4. For magic users, it's level 8 and 5 hit die. For clerics, it's level 7 and 6 hit die. For monsters, it is simply based on the hit die given our troll example. This is reinforced by elves and ghouls. Elves cap at level 4 for fighters and level 8 for magic users, which coincidentally is the level both classes gain the hero level fighting ability. Ghouls specifically say the following in their information. As stated in Chainmail, for whites, ghouls paralyze any normal figure they touch, excluding elves. They otherwise melee in the regular fashion and are subject to missile fire. Any man type killed by a ghoul becomes one. Elves essentially start out with a heroic ability, that being immunity to a ghoul's paralysis, and are capped at the heroic level for both classes because this is an early game heroic ability. There's going to be some trade-offs. Therefore, pre-Greyhawk and any strategic review, any character with multi-man abilities may make multiple martial attacks against normal foes. Normal foes being defined as any creature with 3 hit die or less, with exceptions like ghouls and other outliers. Chainmail is again clear that heroes are almost one-man armies with their fighting ability since they equal 4 men. This means levels 1 through 3 for the fighting man are still normal, but against other normal foes, the fighting man gains multiple attacks. So at level 2, he has 2 attacks. At level 3, 3. This is powerful. And again, clerics and magic users are not barred from this ability if we are referencing Chainmail. Pre-Greyhawk 0E is actually heroic gaming, not mudcore. Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you found it interesting. I think 0E is a super interesting game, and there's so many things to dive into and draw from it and learn from it. So many things about the game that we don't understand that I don't think that it should be thrown out. And so I'm going to be covering a few more things that I've discovered like this because I just find it super interesting, and I hope you find it super interesting too, and maybe gets you interested in trying 0E. If you find 0E daunting, I want to let you all know, I've mentioned this on stream, that I am working on a clone of 0E that will implement a lot of these ideas that I've talked about here into it and make, I think, a pretty heroic and fun game for you to play with your friends, and hopefully a little bit more streamlined as far as layout, organization, and writing is concerned. Hopefully easier to reference at the table. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. If you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, share the video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.